Lance and Gregory came to Eggs in March of 2024 after a long journey of trying to build their family. Their story is so touching, we thought we'd ask them to tell it in their own words. This voice recording is our reading of their story. Hi readers, Lance here. Gregory, like he has been for the last 14 years, is right by my side drinking his tea while we write this up together. We met on a dating app in 2010, and while it wasn't exactly love at first sight, it was certainly love by the second date. We had a lot in common. We're both science and technology geeks. Gregory works for a biotech company working on drug discoveries, and I teach science to 8th graders. We also come from a similar small-town background and both fled to the city in search of our authentic selves. About a year later, we moved in together, and life was pretty great. We learned how to live together, and we learned how to support each other. Then in 2015, when the Supreme Court ruled that gay couples could get married around the country, Gregory proposed in the most romantic way. We were walking through Millennium Park in Chicago the morning of Gregory's birthday. For some reason, he wanted us to take a selfie in front of the beam, that giant metal thing in the park. So we get there, and instead of taking out his phone for the picture, he gets down on one knee and pulls out an engagement ring. I was shocked, and with tears streaming down my face, I told him to get up and marry me already. We didn't feel the need for anything fancy, so we had a friend marry us in our little backyard with friends and family about 6 months later. About a year after that, we started talking about kids. We both knew we maybe would want kids one day, but the longer we were together, the more our love grew, so it felt right to finally share it with little ones. Our first thought was foster care, and we did look into it. Ultimately, we struggled with the idea that in a foster system, we might very well only be temporary parents. The idea that we would give our hearts to those kids only to have them taken away, which granted would be great that their family could get back together, was more emotionally taxing than we thought we could bear. So then we thought the responsible thing to do would be to adopt. To make the process more professional, we decided to contact an agency some friends of ours recommended. But that agency turned us away because at the Catholic-based agency, they don't work with same-sex couples. It turns out a lot of the adoption agencies in our area were affiliated with religious organizations that have really antiquated restrictions like that. Finally, we found some private agencies, and to be honest, we're really surprised at how expensive they can be. We honestly thought that it would be way cheaper than it was. We naively figured we could go to the counter and to the county and say, "We'll take your next baby." But that's not a thing. Some of the agencies we contacted wanted between $40,000 and $50,000 for fees, and that didn't even include the court and other legal fees. But if that was the cost, that was the cost. If you can't afford the cost of acquiring a child, you certainly can't afford to raise a child, right? There were all kinds of hoops to jump through, legal background checks, credit checks, home visits, the whole thing. Because I had a drunk driving arrest 15 years ago and had been clean and sober ever since, we almost weren't accepted. I had to get a copy of the case from the court, which was in another state, and I had to go get my sponsor to write a letter, and they all had to be notarized. I also had to get letters of recommendations from our friends. Now, don't get me wrong. I understand why a parent in a court would want to make sure the child is going to a good home, but all that seemed way extra. Eventually, we filled out the form and told the agency we'd accept really any child that was available. After about 10 months into the whole process, we get a call that a mother who was due in 2 months liked our profile and wanted to talk to us on the phone. We were so excited and probably totally overprepared. The call went great, and the next day the agency called us to tell us the woman had chosen us. She was 7 months pregnant and was due to deliver in Indiana, which was only about 3 hours away. So we spent the next 7 weeks getting our nursery ready and even had an impromptu baby shower. Then the call came. It was a Tuesday morning. We were both at work and the agency called us on a 3-way call. The mother was going into labor. We jumped in the car and broke some kind of speed record because we got from our townhouse in Chicago to the hospital in Indianapolis in less than 3 hours. Once we got there, the woman's mother came out to meet us, and the look on her face told us everything. The next few minutes were a blur for both of us. She changed her mind and wants to keep the baby. That was really all we heard. There were some I'm sorry's and I'm sorry we had to meet under these circumstances. The day that was supposed to be the best day of our lives turned into the worst. Gregory held me in his arms as we collapsed there onto the floor of the hospital hallway, and we just cried. When we got our wits about us, we went down to the cafeteria for some coffee and called our agency to see what, if anything, could be done. We knew this was a possibility, but the agency said it almost never happens. We just weren't prepared. Was there a child somewhere else that we could have? Was there any chance the woman might change her mind again? Was there something we could do? The agency was long on sympathy and short on solutions. We went to bed that night, heartbroken and feeling as low as we'd ever been. The next morning, we both went to work and just went through the motions. But fortunately, our love was stronger than our heartbreak, and we were able to keep it together, even if only for the next few months we felt like we were just surviving and not living. We locked the door to the nursery and just tried to pretend it wasn't there. About 6 months later, a friend told us that she and her husband were having fertility issues, and they sought the help of a fertility clinic. It turns out her eggs weren't all that great, and so they went to an egg bank. It turns out that egg bank traditionally works with queer couples, but is open to all. It was called Pride Eggs. After a while, Gregory and I got started talking about what it would take to have a child that was actually biologically connected to us, that no one could take away. We did a lot of research and went to a few seminars. We got an idea of the cost of the entire process. Eggs, surrogacy, fertility treatments, birth plans, etc., and it was a lot. We had gotten some of our deposit back from the adoption agency, so we went ahead and made an appointment with the fertility clinic in our area. They recommended an egg donation agency that was nearby in Chicago, but we asked if we could use Pride Eggs, just to talk about the process. The fertility clinic said we could use any egg bank we wanted. We went ahead and made a call and set up a consultation with Pride Eggs, and they were amazing. I don't think I've ever been a customer someplace where I felt more welcome and appreciated. Every gay person reading this will understand what I mean when I say there's a difference between walking into a restaurant where gay people are tolerated and a restaurant where gay people are welcomed and celebrated. And that's the difference we felt when we had our first consultation with Pride Eggs. The Pride Eggs got us connected to their materials that allowed us to choose the traits of the egg donor we wanted. We looked through photos, read descriptions, and tried to picture what our child might look like. Eventually, we made our decision based on a number of factors, and Pride Eggs worked with our clinic to make it all happen. That was 18 months ago. At the time of this writing, baby Judy is 6 months old, and just as fabulous as I am, and just as stubborn as her pop. We're in for quite a ride, and we have Pride Eggs to thank for turning our heartbreak into a dream come true. The nursery door is unlocked now, and our entire home is filled with noise and love and laughter. Thank you, Pride Eggs.